Hello lovely people, welcome to another book chat, the regular roundup of stuff I've read at some point in the past.
Sophie vlogs.
I've got 3 books to talk about this week. I'm just going to crack on with it. I'm going to start off with a book that I read on my Kindle. That is Once Ghosted, Twice Shy by Alyssa Cole. This is I think it's 2.5 of the Reluctant Royal series because it's a novella rather than a full novel. It follows Likotsi, who is the personal assistant. I keep calling her personal assistant. I don't know if that's her actual title, but personal assistant to the prince in the first book of the series. While he was in New York doing all of the first book stuff, which I won't go into for spoilers, Likotsi had her own romance with a woman called Fabiola. But towards the end of their time in New York, Fabiola ghosted Likotsi. Now Likotsi is back in New York, and she happens to bump into Fabiola, and shenanigans ensue. Essentially, this, the dance around, why did you ghost me? Do I still have feelings for you? That sort of thing. And so the book is told in sort of alternating like present and past scenarios. So you have like present time, then a little bit of a flashback. And essentially, as the novella goes on, it explores why Fabiola might have ghosted Likotsi, and is there any potential for this relationship to start back up again. This was just a really sweet book. I read it because I just, every now and then, I get like overwhelmed, and I'm like, I need to read something that is like an adorable romance. And sometimes I'm just like, I just need like a bit of sweetness, please. And that's how I felt, and that's why I read this. It kind of gave me everything I wanted at the time. I wanted like a little bit of angst, but I also wanted like emotions and feelings. And I had a really good time reading this. I didn't rate it as highly as A Princess in Theory. Because it's a novella, obviously things are slightly like less developed than it would be if it was like a full novel. It's not necessarily a criticism, it's just obviously because we have a much shorter amount of time here, there's like a limit to how much like growth like Fabiola can have and that sort of stuff, whereas you really kind of already know Likotsi because of that first book. There were a lot of elements that I really liked about this. I found especially like the glimpses of like their early relationship and stuff very, very sweet. On the whole, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying reading Alyssa Cole. I don't read the hugest amount of romance books apart from when I get these like real strong cravings to, and so I feel like I'm still kind of like feeling out authors whose books I like in this genre, and I think Alyssa Cole is one whose books I like, so I probably will be exploring her work further. I potentially will be reading the rest of the Reluctant Royals at some point, just like waiting for those perfect moments, you know? But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was really lovely. Changing genres wildly, I also reread Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I reread this because I have a podcast with my friend. I mention it occasionally. It's always linked in the description down below. But we did an episode on Frankenstein, which I will link down below, should you be interested. Essentially, we wanted to talk about in that episode this sort of like journey from like source material into like popular consciousness Frankenstein that's very tied to the movies, and then we had like a discussion in general about like adapting classics, what ones are done well, what ones do we think we're like, please could you have read the book first, these sorts of things. To me this is a tale of hubris about a man who tries dabbling in these things that are beyond his control and doesn't quite think through what he does, and then like fallout, repercussions, let's look at the morals of this. This is one of those books where I really get why some people don't like it. Like, a lot of this is told to you, like, you know, you're getting a narrative that has been told by X person to Y person who's then written it down and sent it to Z person, you know, it's this thing. But I just really like Frankenstein. I really like these sorts of like ways it makes you think about like playing God, that sort of stuff. I don't know. I'm not talking about it in too much detail here because, again, did a whole podcast on it. We'll link that down below should you wish to get more details on it, but I thought I would just passingly mention that I did reread it, and I did enjoy it. The final book I read is Botanical Folktales of Britain and Ireland by Alyssa Schneidau. I really enjoy folktales. I also really enjoy botanicals, and I'm trying to learn more about plants. So this is a selection of folktales that is all structured around plants. It sort of takes walks through a year, so then the types of tales you get like change as like the year would progress, like the seasons if you will. I thought this was a really solid, good folktale collection. I liked Lisa Schneidau's storytelling manner. One thing I really liked about it is that before each story you get like sort of like an introduction to this tale from her. I really liked that she specified where these stories are sourced from. So like oftentimes that's specifically like this comes from not just like the Southwest, but specifically like where in the Southwest is this tale from. I just think geographical differences in folk tales is really interesting. And I also liked there are some really sweet illustrations throughout this, which are also really cute. But this was just a really great collection. I like her storytelling manner. It's very much done in a way in which, like, she intends that you could read these out loud to people, which is something that I think is very important with folktales, because that is primarily how they were handed down for generations. And I liked the structure, I liked the focus, I liked just exploring a bunch of folktales to do with botanics. There was a really great illustration in this, which I like, which is about a little tree running away. I just thought that was really sweet. But yeah, that's just, again, not a huge amount to say on that because I just think that it does what it does very well. And if you're interested in folktales and you like folktales that are specifically about like plants and nature, then I think you'll like this. That's everything I wanted to talk about this week. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you next time for something different.